Hello and welcome to the workshop. Today we're going to have a radio shootout, but this is not your normal radio shootout. We've had a look at loads of schematics for build-it-yourself radios found online. I built them all so you don't have to, and then we're going to build together the best of each set. Today we're going to look at AM radios. The next part will be shortwave radios and the part will be FM radios. So the winners of each part we can build together, and let's build it. Okay, so here's our test setup. We've got 4 stations, a strong station at 680, a medium test station that we're doing ourselves at 830, this is just a test tone, a medium signal station at 850 and a weak station at 1030. The reason we're transmitting an 830 signal right next to 850 is to see how selective the radios are. In other words, how good they are at rejecting an unwanted station just next to the one you're listening to. So here's our setup with the RF signal generator from our last video. So let's begin.
Following Washington and reading his diary and reading...
There's our strong station. There's our medium test tone.
Done just right. Oldies, 104.7.
Our medium music station. And our weak station.
10-gallon jugs in front of me.
And that's about all you can receive on a portable here. So I'm going to start off with a classic. If you're from England and you're of a certain age, you probably remember this book. It's the Learn About Making a Transistor Radio. And this is a book that got me into electronics when I was young. Here's the circuit. It's very clever the way it works. You've got your tune circuit on the left, which selects your station. You then got a transistor which amplifies it, but if you look, it's split several ways. One way it's split is via the 10PF trimmer back into the tune circuit. This means that the signal's fed back, tuned in again and re-amplified. It's also fed back via 2 diodes. This detects the audio, which is then fed back into the transistor, so the transistor then amplifies the audio as well. This gives a huge amount of gain and selectivity, but at the expense of needing adjustments. Because if you've got too much RF feedback, it will then howl and you just won't pick the station up properly. So it needs a little bit of fiddling about, but when it works well. And above the first transistor you've got a radio frequency choke that just lets the audio only get into the amplifier on the right hand side. Because it's very efficient, 3 transistors is plenty enough to get a signal out of a speaker. So let's see how it performs.
Before you get up to Carroll Middle School, and you are sitting
already we're receiving our strong station.
Northbound right now, so again.
You'll pick us up on 94.7 HD2. Speaking of cars...
So as you can see, it's very sensitive and very selective, and it works well, but it needs a lot of adjustment. Now let's look at our second contender. This is what they call a reflex radio. And no, it doesn't mean to say it's invented by Duran Duran. What it actually is a radio that mostly has audio gain. So on the left hand side we see our tune circuit, which tunes our signal in. The RF is then amplified by the 2 transistors, but audio is fed back to the base of the 2 transistors via D3. The 2 transistors then amplify the audio again, but because they amplify the audio several times instead of the RF, which is only amplified once, selectivity isn't that great, but the audio level is quite high. So let's have a look and see how it performs.
Compromised individuals due to them having a weaker response to the
As you can hear, average sensitivity, average selectivity, but it's just not very loud and it doesn't do a good job at distinguishing our two stations that are right next to each other. Okay, our next contender is from the Everyday Electronics magazine. This is another radio I built when I was younger. This is the FET set, and basically it's a regenerative radio. So what happens, you get your tune circuit on the left, which is then amplified by the FET. It's then fed back into the tune circuit via the second coil and is then amplified again, and it amplifies over and over, which makes it more selective, more sensitive, but again, too much gain, you get the howling noise and the feedback. So you have to adjust the positioning of the small coil to adjust the gain. An FET makes the circuit easier because an FET has got a high impedance, which means it doesn't load the tuned circuit, which means that it's also more selective at rejecting adjacent stations. There's enough signal there to power headphones after the amplification of transistor 2, and there's the old board layout. So let's see how well this one works.
Fear-mongering, even when you're reporting something as basic fact, yet you have the CDC that...
So as you can see, it's more selective and more sensitive and louder than our previous circuit, which is why we've had to put a volume control in there. And here's the circuit of our second radio. As you can see, we've just added a 3-stage push-pull amplifier after the volume control instead of the single headphone amplifier on the original circuit. And this is plenty loud enough to power the speaker, and it works really well. And now here's our final contender. This is a radio I've been wanting to build for a long time and finally got round to building it on this video. It's a Sinclair Micromatic. It was a tiny pocket-sized radio from the 70s which run off 2.8 volt button cells. The circuit of this one is clever as well. It's another reflex circuit, tune circuit to the left again, transistor to amplify the radio, the RF, and 2 diodes to rectify the RF to convert them into audio, and the audio is fed back into the transistor and amplified again. So again, this makes efficient use of one transistor. The choke again separates the radio signal from the audio signal. The audio signal is then passed into the second transistor, amplified to an earphone. Now this one shocked me. This uses one less transistor than our previous radio.
Even though the issues are different,
listen to this.
there, and the goal was to bring them together, right?
Provide support. The office provides a financial service.
Divided,
Huge audio gain, great selectivity, no feedback. However, beware. If you put the second feedback coil, the blue coil, the wrong way round,
and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care.
it's not as selective or sensitive. This is probably due to a little bit of RF feedback getting through. So make sure you put the coil on the right way round. So anyway, that's our winner. It's got everything. It's got good audio, good selectivity, doesn't have the problems of feedback and oscillations, easy to use. And here's our completed schematic with the 3 transistor audio amplifier. Loud enough for a speaker, in fact plenty loud enough. We had to have it turned down quite a bit to show you on the demonstration. And if you want to build it on breadboard, since this is one of our easier projects, here's the breadboard layout. Pause the video, plug it all together, and see how you get on. Any questions, just let me know in the comments below. And our next video will be shortwave radios. So thank you very much for watching.